No mai, haere mai, piki mai, kake mai, kia ora e tiwi, and welcome to 30 with me, Guyon Espiner. We do 30 minutes with one guest and no cuts, so what we record is what you get. If there was a poet laureate for the national psyche, then the bard might just be the clinical psychologist, author and TV presenter, Nigel Latta. He's taken us beyond the darklands to understand notorious criminals. He's helped us navigate the parenting minefield and deployed his wit and wisdom on all manner of ills, from sugar to booze to scammers. But last year, the music stopped. Nigel Latta had cancer. He's given 6, maybe 12 months to live. Now he's responding well to the wonder drugs he's been taking, and he plans to be around for a long time. And that's good, because we have questions. Are we in a mental health crisis? Can AI therapy bots help? Will parenting apps guide us on raising the next generation? What's it like to live with fame and to stare death in the face? Let's start the clock. 30 minutes with Nigel Latta. Nigel Latta, welcome to 30.
Thank God. That's the first time that poet laureate has been used in conjunction with my name.
I wrote you a special intro.
I liked it.
I thought you deserved it.
I liked it. Mate, I should try poetry.
Rumours of your demise are much exaggerated?
Yeah, pretty much. It's like it's been a pretty interesting 10 months, and I've learned a few things, but I'm good. I'm cracking on, back at work and doing things, so I'm good.
And the chemo, pretty tough?
Yeah, it is. Like, for people who haven't been through chemo, it's like taking a cheese grater to your insides, basically, because it's you've got targeted drugs that affect your particular tumour, and then you've got these chemo drugs which target any fast-growing cell, which is a lot. So yes, that bit wasn't much fun.
And initially, it was looking pretty grim for you, wasn't it?
Yeah, the first couple of days were pretty grim, and we've had some pretty grim moments, but now it's good. Like, I'm responding to stuff, and I've kind of got used to it. It's like, you know how you spend your whole life worrying about whether or not you've got cancer?
Yes.
I don't have to worry about that. So, do I have cancer? Oh yeah, I do. That's right. Yeah. And so now it's about managing the disease, because that's why it feels like there are more people with cancer, because more people are living with the disease because there's lots of drugs that can help.
And you didn't respond initially, and then you were moved to some, what you're calling wonder drugs.
Yeah, I know. I was lucky. I got pretty much got on wonder drugs straight off. And this is where oncology is an amazing field, because the advances are happening so quickly, and so they're able to target particular receptors on the cells of the tumour, and so that stuff is pretty remarkable. If it had been 10 years ago, I would have been in big trouble, but now it's like, I'll just take the stuff.
What have you learned about the perception of equity in New Zealand from a healthcare perspective? Because we think of ourselves as this egalitarian country where we've got a public health system and everyone's kind of treated the same. But I imagine some of those drugs that you're talking about, the tailored drugs, are expensive, or you need health insurance for them. It's not the level playing field that we kind of grew up thinking it is.
Certainly the one thing that we have nagged everyone that comes within earshot is that if you can afford to get insurance, get insurance. Like, if you can afford it, get it. And if the choice between a trip overseas and insurance, get the insurance. Because the reality is, we're a small country. There are lots of new drugs coming along, and we're never going to be able to afford to fund all of them. We're just not. And so you're going to depend on things like insurance payouts to help you to meet the costs of getting those drugs. And so I'm a huge advocate of insurance now. Like, I blather on about insurance a lot.
You must be popular at parties with it.
Oh, people love it. It's like, don't go on that holiday.
Tell me about insurance.
Get your life insurance sorted out.
How has your knowledge of psychology helped you deal with this?
Well, it has helped. I mean, I've basically spent 30 years talking about resilience in one form or another. And then this thing comes along and it goes, okay, let's see how good you are. And so I still believe all of the things that I believe, but I have a new sense of how important they are, and the things that make it hard. As you become more physically ground down, it's harder to be kind of optimistic, but you've got to keep kind of pushing back into that optimistic space, because optimism really is a superpower and it really does help.
So that is the key, the power of positive thinking, if you like.
Yeah, like one of the things that predicts a better survival rate for cancer is an optimistic outlook. And a number of kind of cancer specialists have talked about the fact that having this sort of sanguine personality where you're kind of more relaxed, you think the world is a pretty good place, and you're optimistic, it can make a difference. Your T cells, if you're optimistic, are more active than if you're pessimistic, and that's a thing.
You're optimistic?
Yeah, like I always have been. It's like I think it's because I spent 30 years working with people in all sorts of situations, and you see how amazing people are. Like, I didn't get depressed or downhearted from all that work. I was, it always kind of built me up because, man, people are amazing. You know, kids can go through amazing, terrible stuff, and then they pick themselves up and they move on with their lives. So I've always been optimistic.
We'll circle back to some of this perhaps near the end of the interview, but I want to talk about parenting, and you've got a new app, Parentland, which, from what I can see, sort of offers quite sort of tailored but scientifically underpinned advice to the individual child. There's an ocean of parenting advice out there, isn't there? What makes this different?
Yeah, I mean, there is. So this has been kind of 20 years in the making, really. So I had initially, about 20 years ago, I thought there has to be a way to give people individualised advice rather than just generic advice, which is kind of what most of it is. And so I kicked that around for a good sort of 12 years, 14 years. And it wasn't until finally I kind of teamed up with the right group of people that we found a tool so that we could basically give you tailored advice for your particular kid. So if you've got a really stubborn little 6-year-old and a really easygoing 11-year-old, then different things are going to work for them. And so we've kind of, what our app does is it will tell you what you should do with your stubborn 6-year-old versus what you should do with an easygoing 6-year-old if you're dealing with bedtime behaviour, all those sorts of things. And it's got some cool tools in there like the Farty Monkey, which is mine, that I dreamed up.
What does the Farty Monkey do besides the obvious?
The obvious. It's like a little reward tool. So you give the monkey little bananas, and when it gets to a set level of bananas, it does this massive fart. And I spent 2 weeks during lockdown mixing fart tapes of. I bought the sound effects. They're not.
Better than making sourdough, I suppose.
But it was just like, so it's kind of cool. It's like it's been 20 years in the making, and the last 6 years are like a huge amount of work. And so it's really kind of lovely to see it kind of finally there, and people are downloading it and using it and finding it helpful.
We'll talk a little bit more about parenting in a second, but I'd be interested to get your views on AI therapy chatbots. I've been playing around with one recently. It was called TheraChat, and I asked it a little bit about how to cope with the fear of getting older, how to cope with recovering from a divorce, asking for a friend, obviously.
What did it say?
And well, it gave me some of the advice about joining groups, making connections, making sure I slept well, having a good diet, and all those sorts of things. It was fairly sort of generic advice. Nothing sort of egregiously sort of outlandish or anything. What do you make of the use of AI chatbots? Because they are being used increasingly, aren't they?
Yeah, and I guess the thing that I think is usually pretty terrible is they're basically taking ChatGPT and just putting new skin on it, so it looks like something else, but it's really just ChatGPT. Like at best, what you get is generic, and at worst, what you get is advice that's actually downright dangerous. And so, when I looked at lots of these little chatbots as we were doing our app, and some of the advice around things like eating is just dangerous, because eating is something you have to get right, and it's expert knowledge stuff with kids. It's the one thing that can actually kill children is when the eating stuff goes really badly wrong. And so the AI chatbot stuff is fine, but it's generic at best. And yeah, it can be outright dangerous because it tells you to do things that are just not good things to do.
We are seeing some studies, though, with medicine where AI has been getting better diagnostic results than doctors. Now, I know this is still contestable. It's at an early stage. But AI really, or ChatGPT, as you mentioned, is only really just over 2 years old. It's an infant in the metaphor of the discussion we're having. Why would that not be the case eventually for for psychology or for mental health?
I think the problem is if you're looking at things like diagnostically, then it's looking at a series of kind of criteria and it's applying that to what it's seeing. The problem is that when you're dealing with the people part of the people stuff, it's just so vast and huge and sprawling. And so, I think about the fact that how when I first started doing the clin psych stuff, I didn't know anything about talking to people, like nothing. And it takes a long time before you kind of can really get your head around what people are talking about. So they might say one thing, but you recognise a pattern which makes you think, okay, well, actually, I think there's something underneath that that's more important. So it's like I think at some point, I think AI stuff will get better, but currently, I'm quite sceptical about it.
Are you?
Yeah.
So if the robots are coming, they're not coming for your job, you don't think?
Oh no, I think who knows? Like ultimately, I think they come for all of our jobs because they'll be, we'll both be at home and there'll just be representations of us having this kind of chat. So I think that can be, but we've done this a lot in the past. Like every time some new technology comes along, we doom and gloom it and we go, it's going to end the world and take all the jobs and eat us. And generally, it kind of hasn't. So I think there'll be a role for AI, and I think it can augment what humans are doing. But I still think there's going to be a place for humans to do human stuff.
It's interesting you say that because I'm getting a lot. Maybe it's the circles that I hang in, but there's a lot of existential doom about AI.
I was doom about everything. Like, honest to God, everyone gets doom and gloomy about everything. We got Trump to get doomy and gloomy about. There's the climate to get doomy and gloomy about. My sort of take on humans is that what we do is we wait until things are just almost at the unsolvable stage. And then we go, oh, we should do something about that. It's like, oh, we've been burning whales for ages. We're running out of whales. That's a shame. Oh, burn that stuff in the ground. And it's like, it's causing climate change. Oh, what should we do? Oh, we'll make it out of sunlight. Like, I just don't, it's very, very easy to buy into the doom and gloom, but ultimately, none of us have any control over that stuff. And so what's the point? And I think it's better to kind of focus on what you can actually do. And this is kind of the problem with the world, right? Everyone gets all upset about something, so we change our Facebook picture. Do you know what I mean? It's like, my mother-in-law, she's American, and she was back in the day of Jim Crow. Like, we have a photo of her sitting at this whites-only counter with a couple of black kids that she just rode into town. So she was like, they put their money where their mouth was. They did stuff. They didn't just go, man, I'm going to change my Facebook post. I'm going to put a little ring around it. Oh, that's me done. It's like I would go for a walk past this house in our block. It has a little sticker on the mailbox that says, this house wants action on climate change now. It's like, oh, right then, we'll get onto it.
That's worth a degree on its own. You and I have grown up, and over our lifetime, gone from a country where you were either fine or you were mad, and there was no real discussion about any nuance in between in terms of mental health, to a country where it's fine to go on Instagram and talk about what antidepressant medications that you're on, and we sort of almost, you could argue we overshare. Has this greater awareness of mental health helped us? Are we healthier because of it?
I think it's good. I think that like things swing, right? So it did go, like I remember that no one ever talked about, like the stuff that kids at high school now will talk about. No way would you have talked about that in Waitaki Boys High School in the 80s.
What sort of stuff?
Like feelings and their sexuality and which counsellor they're seeing, and if the counsellor's any good and what medication they're on. And so I think it's good. I think it's like an opening up and people being more honest about their feelings and stuff, which is important. But there is some kind of over-diagnosis and silliness that goes on. People diagnosing themselves off TikTok and, I've got ADHD. Who diagnosed that? Oh, I did. From where? Like, I was off the internet. I watched a YouTube video. And I remember watching this video once of a 16-year-old who was going online talking about her diagnosis of ADHD. He says, yeah, I have ADHD. Like, I can do most things, but if my mum asks me to clean up my room, my ADHD kicks in. and I just can't focus on that at all. It's like,
I can relate
that's
to
not
that.
ADHD. You're just a typical teenager.
We had the psychiatrist Sam McBride on this show last year, and he was quite concerned about an overdiagnosis of ADHD. Do you think that there is some social contagion in that, or is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it's cool for kids to have lots of letters now, and so I think we diagnosed autistic spectrum disorder, OCD, depression, anxiety. I think all of that stuff is overdiagnosed because it's not because it's not diagnosed by clinicians, it's diagnosed by people. And it's like, there's a reason that you don't go to the internet for a diagnosis for appendicitis. It's because it takes you have to know some things to diagnose it. And so, yeah, I do think that there's a tendency for everyone to kind of jump on that particular bandwagon.
You mentioned TikTok there and other forms of social media. Very quickly, a discussion about any mental health issues that society is facing. Social media rears its head pretty early in those conversations. Is it a scapegoat or a genuine culprit, do you think?
Some of it is a scapegoat. I mean, I think the single biggest effect that we can kind of clearly show is the effect on sleep that social media use has. But, you know, then there's the BBC series Adolescence that was just on, and which was an eye-opener for a lot of people around the world about the stuff that can be quietly taking over in your kid's bedroom that you don't know about. And I hadn't really heard about Andrew Tate, and I did vaguely heard about the manosphere, but I wasn't really very interested. But you kind of watch that series and you think, man, and then you dig around a little bit into what that world is and you think, whoa, that's some pretty bad stuff.
I watched that myself. Do you share that concern? I suppose the theme was that boys have lost their way. They're lost and they're not quite sure what their role in society is. And the toxic manosphere of Andrew Tate and there are others presents them with a way to be. Are you concerned that we've lost our boys?
No, not all of them, but I do think that people like Andrew Tate and that whole manosphere nonsense, it does, like if you're a disaffected, 14-year-old sitting in your room, and like there's plenty of them, then those people are very good, I think, at sucking you into their world, and they just do it in a very sort of slow and amusing way, but before you know it, you're spouting some of that philosophy, and you do look at, like in the UK, that attacks on girls from boys have been increasing, and so I think it's something we absolutely need to be thinking about. And girls have problems too. It's not just that boys are lost. It's just that like kids have problems. Doesn't mean they're lost. But I find the Andrew Tate stuff really concerning.
There's a move in Australia to ban social media for under 16s. Is that a solution in your view?
I mean, good luck. How will you do that exactly? Would be my
Well,
question.
I don't know. Those tech companies seem to be pretty good at figuring out what the algorithm can serve you up. I'm sure they can solve the problem of how old you are.
I'm not sure their heart will be in it though. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I think that it'd be really easy for a kid to sign up to like they can find ways around stuff. They're pretty tech smart.
Okay, let's put that to a side for a second. Is it something? What would you say to a parent if they asked you, should my under 16-year-old have a social media account? Is it something you've got a view on?
Well, I think you try and kind of keep them away from that stuff as long as possible. But really, it's about having conversations, and if nothing else, what that adolescence series showed us is that those conversations need to be having way early. Like, you need to be talking to your kids at 7 or 8 about the stuff, because they're going to be coming across it and saying, have you seen this guy? What, he's a dick. Like, he keeps so it's about having those conversations, but having them kind of much earlier. I mean, if I could get rid of social media, I would. I think it's a stupid, pointless, friggin' waste of time. No good's ever come from social media.
How do you have those conversations? Let's say, for example, that you're parenting a young boy, and you should have those conversations at 7 or 8. How do you have them?
Bedtime chats are a good time. Like at the end of the day, if you're driving around the car, it's a good time to have them. If they come to you with stuff that they've seen on the internet, that's a good time to have them. And they'll come to you if you don't take the technology away. Like your response shouldn't be, I'm going to remove the technology, because then they won't come to you about stuff. So it's just about it's a million little conversations. It's not some big one sort of moment where you sit down and have this breakthrough conversation. It's like lots and lots of little conversations about what stuff you're looking at on the internet. Have you seen any of this stuff? Like, what do you think about that? What do you think about this dude that goes on and says, hey, ladies suck, and they're all terrible, and we should own them? What do you think about that? And if you can kind of get into the heads at 7 or 8 that that's ridiculous, then they're better prepared for when they actually kind of see the stuff.
A lot of New Zealanders co-parent, don't they? The child's with them one week and then with the ex-partner the other week. Does that present particular challenges, do you think?
No, and in fact, for blended families, the outcomes for kids in blended families are the same as the outcomes for kids in large families.
Is that right?
Yeah, so this whole idea that there's some catastrophic thing that happens when parents
Because we used to call them broken families in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah. No, the idea that that separated or blended families are terrible and catastrophic is it's just not right. Like, the research doesn't support that, and we've had separated or blended families forever because people died a lot through human history, and so kids have been growing up in blended families for centuries. It's not so much about the blended family per se; it's about what happens within those families and what happens between parents.
What do you mean by that?
Well, it's like if you're co-parenting with your kind of ex, then you need to play. You kind of it's difficult because you need to play a straight game all the time, as much as you possibly can, which means that you just never ever say anything bad about the other parent. You're always supportive of the other parent. That can be difficult if you feel like they're saying things about you. But as much as you can, you play a straight game and you don't engage in that stuff, because little kids grow up and they give everyone a grade about how well they did during the separation, and it can be hard because separations are really difficult times for everyone. And so as two adults, you're trying to sort out, property stuff and childcare arrangements and all of that when you're both in a really emotionally not great place, so it's really hard. But you just have to really kind of buckle down and think, right, I'm going to be straight with the stuff, and I'm not going to say anything bad about the other parent. I'm always going to say supportive and kind things about the other person.
When you look back, you've written a number of books as well as your TV series. You had the Politically Incorrect Parenting book, which was 2010. Does that still hold up now, or have you changed your mind about parenting in any degree, or do we need to change as the world changes?
No, I think, I still think the things I've always thought about parenting, because I've been working clinically with families over that whole time. And so, I kind of think there's some modern silliness around in parenting, which there's a thing called respectful parenting, where if you it's like something in Monty Python. If you're going in to change the baby's nappy, you have to ask their permission. You have to go, look, Graham, your nappies are dirty. I don't want to shame you out on that, bro, but would it be all right if I change your nappies?
So you can go back and tell your partner, oh, I tried, but they said no.
I know. So it's some of that kind of stuff that kids must never feel bad about anything, and you must never use consequences or anything like that ever. I don't know how you can raise a child and not use consequences. Like, I couldn't have done it. But no, I think the things that I've always believed are still the things that are true. It's just that it is hard for people to know what's the information that you can trust, because everybody sounds like they're speaking facts. But often, if you dig into the evidence base underneath some of the stuff, it's just not kind of there.
There was a trend that we were, I think there was Jonathan Haidt and others wrote The Coddling of the American Mind. It might have had a slightly different title, but there was an idea that we were wrapping our kids in cotton wool, wasn't there? Do you think that still stands and we are doing a bit much
I actually think the worst thing we're currently doing is those people who get really hung up on presenting this picture of their family on Facebook, which is usually not completely true, and is that sort of super competitive parenting stuff, so kind of pushing kids into, kids who are just average, being pushed into being exceptional. And look, here's little Johnny he's been national band champion this year. Like, no one cares. If you brag on Facebook, the only people that are liking it are people they're just mocking you anyway, or they're just mocking you anyway. Like
So it's kind of okay to be average in a way.
yeah, it's like, and what's also a really important thing is not to So I have this cough, which when I try not to cough and talk, makes me sound like Lego Batman. I think we have this thing about trying to make them sound better than they are and putting all of their lives up on social media, and it's like you just shouldn't do that. I've never put pictures of my kids up on social media because I know there are bad people scraping children's pictures off the internet, and I don't want my kids' photos being up there at all. And so that's something they can decide when they're adults, but it's not, I don't want to put this stuff up there when they're kids.
Just looking at your own background in childhood, it looked like, you were from you were born and raised in Oamaru.
Yeah.
Or Oamaru, as we probably called it.
Oamaru then, mate.
Yep.
Oamaru.
Dad was a builder, Mum was a stay-at-home mum, right?
Yeah.
And fairly modest means, but they were there for you, right? They loved you.
Yeah, well, Dad was a builder during the worst time in New Zealand to be a builder. Like he was basically, he left building to go on the dole when I went off to university because there was just no work at all. But yeah, it's like the thing I never realised is that I had this a really precious thing, which is that I had this like a mum and dad who like literally were always there for me and you always kind of felt loved and cared for, and you always felt like they were interested in your life. And it wasn't till much later on, I just thought everyone had that. I just thought, well, that's how it is, right? It's like if you need something, you kind of yell out and your parents will come and help you with that stuff. And it wasn't until I started kind of working with kids in very different kind of lives that I discovered that, no, that's not what everybody gets.
Yes, because you spent, 17 odd years working with murderers, sex offenders, rapists. You went on, you did the Beyond the Darklands TV series examining the backgrounds of these notorious criminals. That must have changed your mind about free will or what degree of control we have over our lives, did it?
I think my fundamental view about people is that people's intentions are good, even when they do bad things. If you dig down deep enough, and sometimes you have to dig a pretty long way, behind this abhorrent act, you can see, well, I kind of get to the end. Like I remember once interviewing this kid who was 13, and he was locked up because he was a white supremacist devil worshipper, and him and his mates would just beat up basically any kids they saw who weren't white with bits of wood. And so he got locked up, and I said, look, okay, the white supremacy, we'll come back to that, but the devil worshipping bit, what's that about? Because like I've seen lots of films, and the devil, it's not a team player, like it never goes well. And he said, God loves everyone, so I don't want to be part of that, but you have to be really special for the devil to like you. And it's like, I get that. I know what he's saying. He just wants to belong. And so yeah, like like it was a huge blessing, I think, getting to do that work, because it's really helped me to see that people are just people. Everybody wants the same thing. Everybody just wants to love and be loved. They just do. That's what they want. And sometimes we have some pretty messed up ways of getting around to trying to do that, but that's what everybody wants.
They want to belong.
Yeah, they want to feel like they belong somewhere, and they want to feel loved by people. That's why all this getting tough on crime bollocks is never going to work. Like, you can't get tougher on those people than has already been. And, we can crack down on gangs and have these special gang teams of blah, blah, blah. It's not going to solve the problem. I mean, I've sat in rooms with gang members talking about their kids and their families, and they're just the same thing. Like, they're parents who want the best for their kids, and just their day job is not what our day job might be. So yeah, like people, like 30 years of doing people has just convinced me, beyond that shadow of any doubt, that all people want is just to love and be loved. That's it. That's all people want. That's all your kids want. That's all your co-workers want. That's all gang members want. They just want that.
You talk about your day job. I mean, you've done all the books and you've done all the TV series, and more than a dozen when I was counting back through them. You've got a big pivot profile. You've lived with fame, really. How do you manage that? And it's a difficult thing to talk about because, but that you must have people coming up to you all the time asking.
I do, but I kind of always have known that, like, so fame here in a country of 5 million people is like being a columnist in a community newspaper in Sydney. Do you know what I mean? So like it's no great thing. Mostly people are kind of really nice.
But psychologically, how do you deal with it?
It's not the I like making TV. I don't like being on. I don't like the public profile stuff as much. Like I'm a pretty private person by nature. And so I would never have kind of sought that out. But by the time that was rolling along, it was kind of too late really. It's like, okay. And generally it's completely fine. It's just occasionally it can be a bit annoying. Like when people, I was at a Dragon concert once and there's a bunch of drunk people coming up to me telling me about their kids. And it's like, dude, I'm here to watch the band. You know, it's like, I do feel for you and your situation, but the band is playing now, and I did kind of buy a ticket. It's got to, you know. So yeah, like it's been a strange thing to for someone who never really wanted and enjoyed any of that stuff to have this sort of public profile. But the profile means you can get stuff done, and it opens some doors that you wouldn't normally get to open, and that's kind of cool too.
And what's the next one that you want to open?
It's funny, like the big learning for me of the last 10 months has been really that really obvious thing that we all know, which is that, you know, time with the people that we love is the most important thing. But what I'm little bit lung cancer, what I'm really focusing on is letting that knowledge change my behaviour. So like you always know that time with the people that you love is the most important thing. But what happens is we don't let that knowledge actually change our behaviour, and we just keep doing the same old things. And so, like for me, what I want to do is just, you know, hold my wife's hand, like that's a good day out for me. Do you know what I mean? And spend time with her and spend time with the kids. And so I've changed my behaviour to do that. So I do a lot of speaking gigs, and now I used to go away and do them by myself, and now I'll only go if Natalie comes with me, because it's like, I'm not going to spend that. If I spend that night just me by myself on this hotel for this thing, then that's one way of spending it. But I don't want to spend it like that. And so I'm really my goals and aspirations have changed. I just want to hold her hand for about 30 more years. That's all I want.
Well, thank you for your 30 minutes.
You're very welcome.
Really appreciate it. That was 30 Minutes with Nigel Latta. This is 30 with me, Guyon Espiner. We'll catch you next time. Ngā mihi nui.